Hello to the 14 attendees to this live. I'm really impressed you guys joined this early. But please be reminded to have a GitHub account and GitKraken installed through the links on your screen right now. I'd like to remind again to those who are new to please make a GitHub account and also install GitKraken on the links on your screen right now. Thank you. Hello to the 42 attendees that we have right now. It's already 10:30, so on the agenda today, it's supposed to start now. So let's start now. All right, welcome everyone. Today I'm your host Muhammad Faiz. I'm your host for today's event. Some of you might know me from a previous event called GDSC Info Day. I'm the same MC. I'm so beloved that they want me to go on again as well. So what is happening today? Today we have the GitHub and GitKraken and Git workshop tech talk kind of thing. So this is our first tech talk for the year. So let's give some hype for the first tech talk of the year. So let's start off. Let's kick things off with some ice-breaking sessions. So if you guys could please go to that link on the screen right now, or it should be right now that there's a QR code on your screen as well. You can scan that QR code to go to that website, and let's just wait for that QR code to appear. But if it's not, you can just go to that link on your Chrome and key in that code. So I'm just gonna wait for you guys to do that for a bit, and we'll start the icebreaking session. So what's gonna happen is that on that Slido, what's gonna happen is there are gonna be some questions on the screen, as well as some Q&A questions. So basically, it's just some random questions that you guys can answer, and we've prepared for you before. So if the QR code can appear right now as well, I'm just waiting for a few minutes. I'm just waiting for just a few minutes for you guys to click on 3 minutes. All right. So we'll give you guys about 3 minutes to join that link on the screen right now. So just to remind you guys, to those who just joined, we went from 42 to 52 attendees. That's amazing. So today, as you can see on my screen, on my cam, today's tech talk is gonna be on Git, GitHub, and GitKraken. So all right, good. So that's the QR code on your screen right now. So if you guys can please scan, that's gonna be way easier than clicking in on a link and whatnot and keying in the code. So if I feel like it's gonna be 1 more minute, I'm gonna give 1 more minute for everyone to scan the QR code, and then we'll go through a really fine few questions that we've prepared for you guys to answer and to get to know you guys more better. All right, so just to remind everyone who just joined, today is our first tech talk of the year. So let's have some round of applause. Woo! Some hype for our first tech talk. I know I'm a very beloved MC from our first GDSC event, which is the Info Day. Some of you might have complimented me as a streamer. So today I have a microphone boom that makes me more like a streamer. All right, so it's been 3 minutes. So let's go on with the Slido. All right, so let's go to the first question. What do you think Git is? Do you think it's easy to use? Some people say no. They don't think it's easy to use. It's a version control system. Git is a platform for developer programmers, easy to use if you learn about it. They think that Git is a platform to share their source code, as well as yeah, I don't have a clear idea. Don't worry if you don't know what Git is. If you have zero experience on GitHub, GitKraken, Git, or whatever, you don't even know what that is. Today's workshop is for people to get to know about it, and maybe by the end of this workshop and tech talk, basically, it is a tech talk, you'll get to know to use it. For those who are actually taking computer science for the first years, like me, maybe you can use it to finish your fundamentals of programming project. All right, not a lot of people don't know. All right, yes, it is right. Technically, it is a source code management, but it's more of like a team collaboration thing. But I won't answer that because I'm not a speaker for today. I'm just your MC. So your speaker for today is coming up soon, but we'll just go through a few more questions and answers on this Slido. Could you please go down or go to the next question? All right, how do you do coding projects, assignments with your friends? So I want to remind everyone that there is a second question. It's not just that one question. So if while everyone's answering that, can we go to the first question again? All right. It's not the first question. Okay. So what do you think Git is? Software for tracking changes, usually used for coordinating. All right. Let's just go through three answers. So we can scroll down. A place we can get resources. I don't think it's easy to use. Personally, I think it is quite easy to use if you know how to use it. Because like anything, I'm pretty sure that's common sense. If you know how to use it, it'll be easy. Git is a version control system. It's not easy to use if you're coming from GUI background. All right. Okay. So let's go to the next question from just now. Right, how do you do coding projects assignments with your friends? So some of you may know that who don't know what GitHub is. You might use WhatsApp to send your code. That's what I did back then. Back in when I was in foundation, I used to send my code in WhatsApp. Use Google Docs as a very innovative way. That's also a team collaborative effort right there, but it just doesn't keep the indentation. It's kind of a hassle. Download and re-download coding files. Those of you who do that are very awesome. You solo, only 6% of you actually solo everything. Come on. Okay, you guys must have been okay. 11% now. That's amazing. All right. Git and GitHub. 24% of you actually use GitHub. I salute you. To those who did use GitHub and Git. All right. So let's go to the next question. Well, waiting for this to be answered. How much do you use Git? I want to remind you guys as well that there is a second question. There's a next question to this as well. So please answer it so that we get to know our audience even better. All right, you are a complete newbie. All right, that makes sense. A lot of people don't know what Git and GitKraken is. There's no problem of not knowing it. It's something that not a lot of people know. To be starting with, to be frank. All right, what is Git? All right, so but for those who are taking AI, I'm most probably you guys should know what Git is because that was our second assignment. But if you don't know, then you're just a legend who didn't do the assignment. All right. So while we wait for that question to be answered, can we just preview the next question? Or is there no other questions? All right, there are no more questions. All right. So I feel like we can go back to the question before this just to see how much people answered it because I think it's been a while. Just go to the right. Yep. All right. So only 8%. I'm very interested in those 8% who solo everything. What's the code? That's nothing new. But did you know that you can actually format some coding in WhatsApp by using the I don't know. It's like on top of your tab key, like 3 times, and then you can just paste your code in there. And it just formats it into Unicode and it makes it easy to read. But personally, I think that without the formatting, it's better. I'm not sure. All right, we'll give 2 more minutes at 10:40. Then we'll start the actual. We'll stop this icebreaking event. All right. Use Google Docs to copy paste code. Okay, 13% of you actually solo everything. All right, so it actually boomed from 52 to 74 attendees. So I just want to please thank to the new viewers. I want to remind as well to the new viewers that what is our event today. So our event today is getting started with Git, GitHub, and GitKraken. I don't know, my hand just disappeared. So if you guys know me, I am actually from GDSC Info Day. I was the MC, and some of you might have complimented me saying that I look like a streamer. So I am fitting into that compliment more by having a microphone boom as well. So I want to remind everyone that there is a Slido. You can scan the QR code. Yes, there is actually a question right here. I'll just publish it. All right. So if you want to scan a QR code, it's just basically as an icebreaking session to get to know more about our viewers, attendees to this Tech Talk. I want to remind everyone that this is our first Tech Talk of the year. So let's get some hype. Come on, just type anything in the chat. I'll see whatever you guys type, and if it's vulgar or whatever, we won't publish it. But I want to remind everyone that you guys can type anything in the Q&A section if you have any questions about something that you don't know. We'll have one of our PICs to answer your question. All right. So 22% of you WhatsApp the code. I'm very surprised that little actually do it, and most of it use Git and GitHub. So that's very surprising to me. I thought a lot more people would WhatsApp the code. And all right, never mind. It's actually equal now. All right, so we're at 10:40 right now. So if you can go briefly, very briefly over the first question just now, if you guys know what Git and GitHub is, how much do you use Git? Is the how much do you use Git question. All right, so I'm a complete newbie. There we go. That makes more sense. The second question said that 40%, 24% of you used. All right, so those who are very excited for this talk, I'm also excited because it is very hype. It's very hype. It makes me feel useful for my FOP assignment. All right, so with that out of the way, it's already 10:40. I just want to remind everyone that you guys can get the recording after this live event. I'm sure we've enabled that feature. All right, so I'll just share my screen now. And yep. All right. So I hope you guys can see my screen. I'm sure you guys can because I am awesome like that. So today's also I want to remind everyone that there is a networking session. So if you guys feel like you want to expand your network and get to know those who are already very literate in GitHub and GitKraken, or maybe basically don't want to stalk them on GitHub account, there is a Padlet link that's going to be published in the chat box right now, which is going to be handled by one of our PICs. So if there isn't a link in the published, it should be there. Yep, Slido. Someone already shared the Slido, but can someone share the Padlet link? If that's possible, if you guys can share the Padlet link. But without wasting any more time, I just want to explain what is this Padlet. It's basically for everyone to just post what is Padlet actually is, because it's actually something that you can just post anything on there and give a brief introduction, maybe where you're from. So I know some of you are not actually from University of Malaya, so welcome. And you guys can post your GitHub account, maybe LinkedIn, so that we can get to know the viewers better on that Padlet as well. So yep, so that Padlet has been published as well by Rafsun. Thank you so much, Rafsun. So what is the speaker? So who is the speaker for today? His name is Kwong Tun Nan. He is a very enthusiastic individual who is always exploring and being amazed by new technologies. He also devotes his free time on understanding and joining talks, forums, meetups, and exhibitions on improving his skill sets. And he's also a very huge advocate for open data, which is something I've never heard of in Malaysia. So I know this is very popular in the West, but this is the first time I've ever heard of someone advocating for open data in Malaysia. So this is something very hype. I am very excited for this. Also, he is a very perfectionist for good UI UX. If you somehow introduced him a very bad website with bad UI UX, I'm pretty sure he'll get triggered. And he also likes future-proof implementations and massively scalable systems. Here's some interesting facts. He's currently undergoing an internship as a software developer in Infinite Sdn Berhad. He's also a community ambassador for MoovIt. Yes, the commuting app in Kuala Lumpur, which is based in Kuala Lumpur and Melaka. And he's also the founder of GDSC University Technology Malaysia Melaka. So yeah, that's very interesting. So that's Kwong Tun Nan. So without further ado, I'll just let Kwong Tun Nan to take over this live session right now. So it's been Muhammad Faris. I am your best MC ever, right? So if you guys like me, just type anything in the chat and I'll just pass this on to Kwong Tun Nan. Take it away, Kwong Tun Nan.
Okay, I think you guys can hear me now. Yep. Okay, so thank you, Mr. Streamer. Yeah, you really look like a streamer. So thank you everyone for joining today, especially at a Sunday. And also thank you very much GDSC UTeM for inviting me to their first Tech Talk event. This is also my first external invitation, so I'm very excited and also very nervous. Okay, yeah, just to correct you, UTeM actually stands for University Technical Malaysia Melaka, not technology. Yeah, so it's one of the first technical universities in Malaysia, and we focus on technical more than so-called theory stuff. But anyways, so let me start. So we are talking about today will be Git, GitHub, and GitKraken. So throughout this whole talk, you will probably understand why I chose to add something called GitKraken into our talk today. So in previous or maybe other implementations or other talks, you will probably only know about Git and GitHub. But throughout this talk, after this talk, you will know that why I added GitKraken in. Especially this talk is tailored for beginners lah. Okay. So before I start anything, I'll just add some disclaimers. So throughout this talk, I'll probably do some opinionated statements or something. So I would just claim that it's my own and it's not related or represented GDSC UM or GDSC UTeM or whatsoever. So content presented here are purely for educational purposes. If let's say you learn how to use Git and then suddenly from here you learn how to hack someone's computer, it's not my problem lah. You are responsible for your own actions. Just to remind everyone also, to submit your question at the Q&A tab of Slido. So if let's say someone actually submitted a question that is similar to what you are going to ask, just put a thumbs up and yeah, like it. Okay, so a brief agenda on today. So I will start with a little brief history of Git and software configuration management tools. Sometimes we call it SCM. And then talk a little bit about simple Git operations and concepts, and then a GitKraken and Git help, and then how the whole thing helps, and the demo, and then we'll end with a Q&A session. And if time allows, I will give you guys some extras. So on how to make sure everyone contributes on your assignment and some underlying mechanisms of Git, and a little bit about GitHub Actions, but I'm not sure if I know enough to talk about GitHub Actions, but I will just put it out for you all. Okay, now why Git? Okay, so let's start with the problem. So I believe that before Git, you guys will see this kind of files and everything, right? So you got final, and then final, and then final, really final, and then really final, screw this shit, and then I don't want to edit it anymore, right? So it's really very troublesome for you, especially as a group leader, to keep track of work done. Why? Because let's say when you are a group leader and then team member one sends you something, you need to first identify the change points, right? Like what code changes where, and then the group leader will need to take everyone's code and then merge it in, and then maybe like if let's say you're using Python, you'll face indentation error when you paste the thing in, right? And then yeah, after getting your code, a group leader has to test like if this code breaks anything in the whole code base itself, whether this thing is what we want, and then maybe send it back to team member one. And then at this time, maybe team member two send something in, and then the whole job of the group leader is just to merge everyone's code and test it. So it's not really a group leader anymore, right? So, and then after that, when you merge in, you will maybe face something like, hey, it works on my computer, why it doesn't work on yours? Your Python version is different than me. And then what if when this is merging, some patch from some other team member comes in, and then team member one say, hey, I already did something on this, and then the group leader need to see again, hey, what team member two did, and then what did team member one overlap team member two. So, well, I would say that multi-people projects is really hell without proper tools, right? What if you suddenly realize that your current code is really screwed up, and then want to go back to a previous version, and then you need to look back to your WhatsApp chat and then say, this person changed this line to this line, and then when you look back, you suddenly realize, hey, during this time, person 2 did send me something lah, so this line changes is not accurate anymore, and then you go back and then change this and that, maybe just scrap your whole project, right? And then how do you actually keep track of changes from version A to B? Like which line of code actually changed? Just with a glance without looking back at your WhatsApp WhatsApp conversations, because maybe sometimes your WhatsApp conversation will be like, hey, let's go makan, right? So we won't want that, of course, but it happens. And then the worst thing, what if your computer explode when you are just compiling the last version of your FYP? Your code suddenly go disappear, and then, oh no, you need to retake the whole semester and maybe extend your graduation, right? So it's really bad here. So for those that don't know, FYP stands for final year project. So in most universities, you need your FYP to actually graduate. So I did encounter people that face hell just because their code was not backed up properly. And then one of them even had to retake the whole FYP, and one of them lost some investment from an external party. So it's really, really bad if you don't back up your code in general. So this is what happens when you don't use proper version control. This one, I found it somewhere in the internet from some website. So you see, if you don't use proper version control, you will add this into your HTML, and then you will see that, oh no, Kemaskini, who did this, Mula Tamat, still never mind. But if let's say there is a malicious actor, then they will know that, okay, this thing was added this time. So which means that this page at this time, before this time was not fixed. So maybe if let's say there is some server that is running the version of this time, maybe I can hack it. So it's really, really bad in this case. But probably by now you will be like very confused, right? Like what is this shit? Like what am I actually talking about? Don't worry, let's go into the world of SCM tools, software configuration management tools, right? So in general, there are three types of tools here, or three types of repository. So let's start with the first one. The first one is just a local repository. So every changes you did is on your local computer, and it just stays on your local computer. So one day if your computer explodes, then it's gone. The next is a centralized repository where each developer will connect to a shared repository to do changes. So a really good example of a central repository will be Google Docs, right? So everyone just edit the online version, and then if you get disconnected from Google Docs, you basically can't edit anything. So this is basically what a centralized repository is. So if let's say Google suddenly explodes, and so your Google Docs is gone. So each developer also cannot do their own work anymore. And then the next one is a distributed repository, which is what is Git lah. So a distributed repository, we have a main server computer that basically has a backup of everything. In Git terms, we call it the origin. So this server computer acts as a source of truth. And let's say if computer A kena a virus, and it changes some history and and pushes it to the server computer. So the server will probably say, oh, this is not correct, I reject everything. But if let's say the server computer explodes, well, it can still restore from computer A and B, right? Because everything, the whole history is saved at both of these computers, right? Okay, so in general, version control, we have two types, centralized and decentralized. So centralized, everyone must be connected, and then you screw up when your server screws up, okay? But centralized version control is really, really good for binaries like images, videos, CAD files, Photoshop files. So everything binary, you just put it there, and it's like that. And the good thing is central safeguarding. So if let's say you have a centralized version control, the server can say that, okay, this user has no more access anymore. You cut off, and that's it. The user won't have this code anymore. As for distributed, users can work without being connected. So as many of you that are already using Git will know, you just pull the files in, and then you just work on it. You don't need to be connected to the internet, right? And also it allows for private work or experimentation. So let's say what happens if I delete this line from code. So if I don't push it, then it will not push to production, and the intern probably won't drop the production database. Okay, so distributed also prevents a single point of failure. So if let's say one of your co-workers' computer explodes, then, well, it explodes, you just buy a new computer for him, and everything continues as normal. But it's really, really bad for non-mergeable files like binaries, because like Git, right, they track changes line by line. So like, let's say you change this line, okay, I would just save this line and will tell you that, okay, the previous line is this, refer to this one. Okay. Okay, so there are many, many version control software out there. We have Git, BitKeeper, the one that has the yellow thing. That thing is called a Bazaar. I don't know why it's called Bazaar. And then if let's say you are familiar with Adobe Creative Cloud, there's this thing called team projects, right, for real-time collaboration. And of all this, Subversion is an example of centralized version control. So it's not surprising that Git Git has the majority of the market share, and this is why we are using Git, we are learning Git instead of the others there. So CVS, Bazaar, and others are getting off. The subversion is the reason subversion is there is because it's a centralized repository, so it's different from Git. So many people still use it lah. Okay, now what is Git? A really simple explanation is that it's a free and open source version control system designed to handle everything from small to very large project with speed and efficiency. So before I start everything with Git and explaining what is Git, I believe that you will need to know the why and what that led Git to what it is today. So let's talk about a brief history of Git. Okay, so let's look at this person. This person is called Linus Torvalds. He's a software engineer. He's a Finnish. And then he's born 28th of December 1969. He released the Linux kernel in 1991. So basically, the Linux kernel is free and open source software that powers more than 95% of the internet, also powers all of your Android phones. And yeah, this is Linus Torvalds of the Linux kernel, not Linus Sebastian of Linus Text Tips. Yeah, so Linux in 2002, that time, was the largest and the most active project in development. So 418 notable developers were listed in the contributors file. So imagine the hell that people had to go through in order to submit a patch to the Linux kernel. And there are already more than about 3 million estimated lines of code. So before 2002, Linux was merged through email. So today I wrote something and I sent email to Linus and say, hey, Linus, I want to add something to the Linux kernel. This is the patch. And then it's a very tedious task, but Linus, being the legend he is, still barely managed to cope. But you know, as you see that the lines of code in a Linux source tree grew exponentially over the years. So there is a need for this kind of software version control. So Linux initially used BitKeeper as their version control software, but the author of BitKeeper, so he withdrew the free use and said that no, you cannot use this for free anymore because this guy created this source puller by reverse engineering my stuff. So I don't really like it. So many people say that Linux using BitKeeper is using a proprietary software. So this proprietary software had almost full control of how Linux progressed. So at the end, Linus Torvalds set out to find a replacement that had fast patching, had support for a distributed and parallel workflow, because remember, the contributors for Linux span across the world. And of course, it really need to include very strong safeguards against any corruption. So the legend being he just wrote Git over the weekend with these few criteriations. So first, patching does not take more than 30 seconds. The software used that time was more than about 30 seconds because at the time of synchronization, if you use Git, it's called Git pull. So when Git pulling, it will require about 250 of this kind of actions at the same time. And it's very normal in the world of Linux to have thousands of parallel branches to exist at the same time. So it needs to support a distributed parallel workflow and have very strong safeguards against any corruption. So he wrote the whole thing over 3 days and completed the rest of it in a week. So he's a legend. So what does Git stand for? Because as programmers, we spend our time coming up with variable names, right? So the name, according to Linus, depends on your mood. So if let's say you just use Git, so it's a random 3-letter combination that is very simple, pronounceable. It's Git, so Git, right? It's the stupid content tracker based on Git as a slang of as a UK slang. And then if let's say everything works well, it's called the global information tracker. And then you see angels, you see lights, and then you feel very accomplished. But if it breaks, it's called the goddamn idiotic truckload of shit. And no, I did not make this up. You can see the Git readme there. Okay, so here's a little fun trivia lah. So later on, Linus retired from this project and passed to this guy called Junio Hamano, and this guy is currently being employed by Google. And a side note, BitKeeper went open source and then stopped development after the whole fiasco there. So yeah, I will just put this slide out again for those that just came in. So you can go to this Q&A and then submit your question at the Q&A tab of Slido. And then if the question is similar to what you are going to ask, do like it, so we reduce the number of duplicate questions. Okay, now let's talk about some simple Git operations and concepts. First questions. What is a repository, a remote, a branch, and a commit? Okay, so a repository is a place where you place your code and everything that comes with it. So it usually refers to something that is on your computer. So you can see that, oh, this is your repository, this is John's repository, and this is the central repository. So a repository is usually referred to the part on your computer. But in GitHub terms, a repository is the place where you store your code. It doesn't matter where it is. And then a remote is a Git repository that acts as the source of truth. So hopefully this is not on your computer, and it usually refers to a centralized server or an origin. And then an example is a GitHub repository. So it's fairly simple. I don't think I need to talk too much about it. And then a branch. Okay, a branch is a movable head, I would say a little label to a series of commits, and then a tag is a fixed reference to a commit. So this one, if you don't understand later on, I will do a little demo. And then there are two major types of branches if you are familiar with the software development cycle. So there are volatile branches and there are stable branches. So volatile branches are those that come up, have a few commits, and then merge back. Stable branches are usually like, okay, main, develop, release. So it goes from branch to branch, and if everything goes well, it will go to the main branch. Okay, so by forking code, sorry, you'll see a branch. So do take note, in some software projects, you will see a master branch instead of the main branch. So it actually means the same. Last time we used master, now we use main. Reason was the Black Lives Movement in the United States. So the term master, they said, was coined with slavery, but so yeah, I get a master's degree or main degree. Okay, anyways, so a commit is a snapshot at the code at that point in time. It's basically a save, and you save this thing at this time, so it saves the version of the code every time it's committed. But the difference is that if, let's say, you are committing a text file, it will only save the part that is different, and then sometimes it will duplicate the file, sometimes it will not duplicate the file. It depends on the Git underlying logic in Git. But this is not important to us because we don't have multiple gigabytes Git repository, so it doesn't matter much. Usually it will save the whole thing, and then a hash will be generated based on the root commit. So you can see that this thing is basically the hash of that particular commit. So the file life cycle. So this file life cycle here is basically like what happens when you add a file into Git, and then what happens throughout the whole thing. So first thing, you will add the file here. So now it's untracked. So later on, you stage the file. You stage the file and say that, okay, now I want to prepare this file for commit. So after you stage all the files you want to commit, you write a message probably, and then you commit. So now it is being tracked. So it's now at unmodified here, right? So if let's say you edit the file, you stage the file. You edit the file, then it's now modified. And then you stage the file, it will be staged, and then you commit and be unmodified and so on. So in most cases, you will be staying in this loop here. Edit file, stage the file, commit, blah, 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 okay? And then if, let's say, you remove the file, it will be untracked now, okay? And I think I will be coming back to this file life cycle many times throughout the demo, okay? And, okay, now, why do we use Git? So Git provides us a very complete and a long-term change history of every file. So Git log changes in a very searchable way instead of, like my first slide, instead of renaming a file for each version. So it will say that, okay, you can look back at your commit message and say that, okay, I did this. So maybe when I do debugging, okay, this part I don't need to check anymore. So it was, you will just label everything out. So why use Git also is because it allows for branching and merging. So collaborators, in your case, it will probably be your classmates, can work in parallel, and then you can merge the changes automatically instead of manually comparing the differences between each and every single file, right? So it's really, really simple because it does everything automatically. Keyword automatic. Okay, so in general, Git provides a complete and long-term change. It gives branching and merging. It gives traceability. This thing can be used using Git blame. So later on, I will talk a little bit about it, and then you will know what was done and why very easily. And of course, one of the main things it's immutable. So it has some mechanism similar to blockchain to prevent changes throughout the whole history and so on. And one thing very important is that because you have a complete long-term change history of every single file, if you screw up your code at any point during your software development cycle, you can just revert back to a non-stable version. You can say that, okay, now I'm doing, hey, I screw up everything. I don't know what I screw up. I can just revert back to maybe version 1. Okay. And then now GitKraken. So when I talk about Git just now, it's all a CLI. So GitKraken is actually a GUI that I would say is really very powerful when you're using Git. So GitKraken is actually a company, a suite of tools that encompasses a Git GUI, Gitbot, and Gitbot is here, Git timelines. But as of time constraint, and because we are just students doing normal stuff, we will probably only use Git GUI. This bot and timelines are used for larger teams. So as you can see that Git GUI gives us a really, really cool branching and everything here. So you can very clearly see where the branch goes and everything. But I will let you guys look up, I will demo to you guys later lah. Okay, now why do you use GitKraken? So Git is super, super powerful, but when you want to memorize the commands, it's very time consuming and it's very tricky to visualize. Imagine trying to visualize where the branch comes from a bunch of text. It's very, very difficult. And you see, you git clone, you need to type this, and then you need to remember to check out, need to look at the status to see if something is committed, and then you need probably add, and then you check the status again, and then you commit, and then you push, and then in some cases, you still need to set your upstream, like where is your origin, you want to push to GitHub or Bitbucket and so on. So it's really, really troublesome if, as a beginner, you only use Git, right? Now, there are some alternatives to GitKraken, so I will just put it here. So I think the committee will be sending a link on this reference on the alternatives of GitKraken. If you don't like GitKraken, no worries, you just find these few things. So the reason I chose GitKraken is because from all this, I think that it is the easiest to use. Okay, now talk about GitHub. So, and as always, a slight history about it. So it's launched in April 2008. It's acquired by Microsoft in 2018 for a really large sum of money. And then in January 2020, it has a lot of 40 million users, 190 million repositories, and then it hosts or archive mirror a significant number of important projects. So let's say you are using Angular, TensorFlow, Kubernetes, Bootstrap, MySQL, uBlock Origin, then all of these projects are hosted in GitHub. And it mirrors the Linux kernel. So it mirrors, which means that it's only used as a copy. It does not have any active development there. It mirrors the Linux kernel and Git. So there are a bunch of notable services at GitHub. Including code hosting, which what we normally use. We have documentation, we have README wikis, which is very nice if, let's say, you have a larger project and you can have discussions, issues, pull requests. You can just pull and then decide to merge in GitHub. And then we also have graphs. So yeah, pulse contributors code frequencies. This one will be very, very important or very, very useful when you want to catch that sleeping team member of yours. Okay, now GitHub Pages is also quite nice. It's basically a host. You can host your HTML files there in general, if I remember correctly. Gist is like a paste bin of GitHub. security alerts. And let's say if you suddenly commit your keys, you suddenly commit your passwords, it will alert you. And GitHub Actions is like, let's say, on every push, I will say that, okay, I want to push this to the live version. So I can set it everything at GitHub Actions. GitHub sponsors are, I think, not for Malaysia yet. Let's say if you like this project, you can sponsor the author of this project. So there are many alternatives to GitHub also. We have GitLab, Bitbucket, the oldest I think is SourceForge, and many, many more. So Redible here is quite an interesting project because it's decentralized, which means that there is no central server governing Redible. And fun fact, you can actually install GitLab at your own server. You can do your own GitLab because it's open source. Okay, so in conclusion, I would say, in general, Git is the version control system that is the CLI. Okay, GitHub is the place to host your code and probably impress other people, your future employer, right? And then GitKraken is the GUI interface for Git. So just to be clear here, GitKraken does install its own Git. When you install GitKraken, it installs its own Git. So if you install GitKraken, you don't need to install Git anymore. It's included with GitKraken, but you can't access the Git CLI because GitKraken is GitKraken. So if you, let's say you want to access the CLI again, you need to install the Git CLI. But why? Okay, now before I start my demo, after this is demo, I want to remind everyone to submit your question at the Q&A tab of Slido if you have one. If the question is similar to what you're going to ask, do like it, right? Okay, so I think the committee has sent quite a number of times of this link in the Q&A already, so I will just put it like that. Okay, demo time. So if let's say you have installed GitKraken and you want to follow, please do so. Hopefully I don't break our computer in the process. Hey, yeah, what could go wrong? Okay, so demo session housekeeping. Please be reminded. Oh, you don't have. Oh, you can't talk in the microphone. Okay, so if let's say I'm going too fast, please send me a slow down please message to the chat area. But I can't guarantee to respond to all due to time constraints, but I will do my best. Yeah. Okay, so a demo agenda. So a basic overview of common Git operations. I will do forking. I will do git ignore, copy cloning, adding file to a local repo and committing, push, making a change. So I will come back to this agenda a few times to make sure that I won't miss anything. And then, pull the changes, create branch, open pull request, merge, and then resolving Git conflicts if I can make a conflict. Hopefully I can make it. So the demo step, first, of course, is do forking. Go to this URL here, github.com/exosoft learn Git with GitKraken. I think the committee will be sending the link there in the chat, and then do forking. And then you can click this fork button here to fork the thing. Okay, so you can see here is my GitHub, and then anyways, so over here there's a fork here, right? So you just click it and it will ask where should we fork learn Git with GitKraken. So for me, I did join many organizations, but for our case, let's put it in my own as my own repository here. So you can see that forking is being done, and then it should only take a few seconds. Okay, so forking is basically copying, but in terms of Git, it's actually branching. So you can see that Exosoft, we have a little branch here, and then when I fork, I create a little new branch here. So this is done. Forking is basically something like that. And then before I start copying all these repositories, so let me just talk a little bit about setting up GitKraken. Okay, so when you first time log in GitKraken, you should be faced with something like this, but you will have you will show this. Oh yeah, GitKraken is free. You should get a 7-day trial, but it doesn't matter much. The majority stuff of you do, I think, is covered in the free license. Okay. Now, when you come into GitKraken, you will be welcome with this. So you can sign with other provider, or you can create a GitKraken account. So in my case, I will sign in with GitHub, and then it will automatically link my GitHub, and I just allow it to do everything, link it with GitHub, and then you will see your name up here. I think you guys can't see my cursor. Let me change my cursor size. Okay, hope this is big enough for everyone. Okay, I think it's too big. Okay, I think this is okay. So you will see your icon up here that says, okay, you are currently signed in. And then, of course, over here, you can look at this manage profiles. You click here, and then you will see that, okay, you are having a profile here. So you can have multiple profiles, of course, because maybe you have multiple organizations, you join multiple organizations, but it's perfectly normal to have multiple profiles. But as a student, you usually only use one. And then the more important thing here is this integrations. So if let's say you sign into your GitHub already, you should see a GitHub connected here. If not, you just sign in here, you just connect and then allow it in the GitHub web interface. It's fairly simple. So GitHub, of course, you can link GitHub. You can link GitLab here. You can link Bitbucket, DevOps, Jira Cloud, Jira Server, Trello, and so on. So you should, after you sign in, be welcome with this interface here. So I will start a little bit about starting a repo first. Okay, a repo means a repository. Okay, so now you can start a hosted repo on GitHub here. You can click it. Link is not working. I think committee, you guys can take a look at that. Anyways, a repository here, when you initialize a repo, you can choose whether you want it to be local, to be at github.com or GitLab and so on, as long as you linked it. And then you can choose your account here. In this case, is this. So the name, of course, will be test GDSC UTeM, probably something like that. And then description, a little description about your stuff. Okay, and then you can choose your access to be public or private. So just now I talked about GitKraken is being free, right? So it is only free for a public repository. So let's say if you have a private repository, you need to have the premium account. But you guys being students, if you sign up for the GitHub Education Pack, you can get a free GitKraken, if I remember correctly, until you graduate. So more details will be provided later on. So let's just remain this as public access, and then if I want to clone after init. So what GitKraken does is actually it does a GitHub action there, does an action at GitHub, and that's it. So if you don't clone after init, it does not copy the code down here, and it only create a repository at GitHub. So it's not good, right? So clone after init, and then where to clone to, you can find a path. So usually I put my code in document /git code because I don't want my code to be all over the place. A full path, and then a default branch name. So it can be main, master, it can be My Little Pony, I don't know. You can do a default branch name of anything. And then git ignore template. So git ignore here is actually quite important because when you do git, sometimes it will detect files that are not supposed to be committed in the repository. So for examples, if let's say you are working with a Node.js, right? Node.js, we have something called Node modules folder. Okay, you are not supposed to commit the Node modules folder, but it just appears. So just to clear your whole just to clear your whole staging, you commit the whole node modules folder. No, you shouldn't do that lah. So from here, you can have a git ignore template that is being done nicely by GitKraken. So you just click it, so you can have a git ignore template, and then yeah, that's it. So for Python cases, maybe it will be a PyCache. So you shouldn't commit PyCache, right? You shouldn't commit logs, you shouldn't commit env files and so on. So over here is a really nice template that you can use during initiation of your project. And over here, the license. So if you don't select the license, it will automatically be exclusively used by you. So if other people want to copy it, to enhance it, then it's really bad lah. They can't do that without risking you suing them. So in most of my projects, I will put MIT license here. So MIT license is saying that, okay, the code is there, you can use it as free as you want, but if your computer explodes, it's not my problem. That's it. So this is the MIT license. It's really, really short. So after checking back, okay, account is correct, name is correct, description, access, clone after init, where to clone, blah, blah, blah. It will be node project. So license is MIT license, and then create repository and clone. I can do this. So LFS here is actually the Git version of targeting binary files. So LFS stands for large file system. So by using LFS, you can actually commit your Photoshop files, but of course, I don't really recommend it. For more details on how LFS works behind the scenes, you can please Google yourself. It's not in the scope of this talk because it's quite complicated, and I don't recommend using it personally. So after everything is done, you create a repository and clone. So it created repo on GitHub, and then it's now cloning. So just to double check, I can view this on github.com, right? So everything is here. So since we didn't start anything yet, so it's quite normal. Okay, so we got initial commit. Let's see. Okay, push successfully main to origin. So now, when I refresh this page, it should be, yep. You can see that I have a git ignore file here. I have license. I have a README over here already. Everything is nice. Now, git ignore, as you can see here, is actually a list of files that adhere to we call a regex, right? So you can see that over here, when you put this node modules and then slash, it means that ignore the folder that is node modules and everything that is inside it. Okay, like this one. TS build info here, you can see that it means that everything that is ending in TS build info. Okay, everything that is ending in TS build info, and then npm cache directory is .npm as we know, and then .dynamodb is DynamoDB local files and so on. So there is a really nice repository on GitHub also, stating all of the git ignores that you will use in recommended git ignores that you will use in many projects. So it's a nice project that you can see. You can go Google it. And then license, you can see MIT license. That one you can read yourself. And then README. Okay, so README in usual cases is written in Markdown language. So Markdown language is also fairly easy to use. Of course, for more details, please Google, because again, it's not in the scope of this thing. But while my VS Code is loading, I'll put it aside for now. While my VS Code is loading, let's look back at the code we forked just now, right? Which is here. Okay, so you can see that this is a sample repository for us that we want to teach a GitKraken. We can use this. Okay, so how do I pull or clone a repository down to my local? So it's very easy. I just copy this link, okay, and then I open a new tab, and then I clone a repo. So it's very easy. Clone the URL, where to clone. I do this, and then clone the repo. I think I still have remnants from the previous talk, so for safety, I'll just do this. Sorry. Okay, let's get GitKraken 2. So it's very simple, just clone the repo. So it will be downloading everything. And then you can open your repo. Okay, so this is the GitKraken interface as we can see. Is very simple. Okay, so over here, up here on the top left, you can see that this is your repository, and because you can open other repository, you can switch repository directly here. But usually you won't use that, you will open a new tab here. So this is stating that what repository you are in, and then this will be your branch, which currently is the master branch. Okay, and then what we have, wait, let me look back at the little guide here. Yeah, sorry. Okay, so over here, you can look at the history. So you can see that the commit date and the time here. And over here, you can see that the commit message. Of course, you can click and commit here, but usually I will recommend it because you can see that it's pushed in remote already, which is this little icon here. This little icon means that it's my repository because this is my icon. This little icon on the right here is meaning local laptop. So you can see it's a laptop here. Okay, so usually I recommend that. And then you can see that when you click on the particular commits, you can see what is being what is happening here. You can see who did it and then what is modified. You can click here and see that, okay, the green part is the part that is added. The red part is the part that is deleted. So it's, I would say, fairly simple to visualize. Okay, now let's do some edits. Okay, so here's my VS Code. I know a lot of people hate light mode, so here's dark mode. So very simple, open a folder. And then git code. And then, yep, then git GitKraken 2. Okay, so I open this code in VS Code, and let's look at index.html. Okay, let me just make this thing larger. Okay, and then scroll down to line 39. Okay, so the guide says copy from here to here and then paste it here. Okay, so let's do exactly that. Okay, and then you can see that there's a little bio here. So for the sake of examples, let's change, sorry, paste to here. Oh, you're supposed to edit the part 40 to 48. So for the sake of changing, let's edit this and say that probably like this. Okay, and then maybe let's edit this paragraph and say that GDSC UTeM stands for Google Developer Students Club University Malaya. And then let's put an emoji there. Okay, now I turn on autosave. So now it's being saved. And you can see that, okay, now the file here, you can see that it's being tracked here. So you can see that, okay, this file is not yet being staged by me. So I can click it and I can see what I changed here. So you can see that this green part is the part that I added, and then this part is the part that I edited. So Git usually tracks stuff by deleting an addition. So it won't track something like, oh, you did not delete H2 here, so I will only edit this part. No, it does not track like that. It tracks via lines. So you can see that the line here is being changed, line here is being changed. So it assumes that it's being deleted. Okay, so the really nice part about GitKraken, I would say, is that it allows you to choose which line you want to stage. You can see there's a little plus here. You can say that, okay, I just want to stage this line. So you can see that, okay, now I stage the line here. I can click back to, I can click to the stage files here. And I can see that, okay, I staged this line and this thing is being stated for commit. Okay. But in our case, let's just stage the whole file. Okay. Let's just stage the whole hunk. So if let's say you are editing a really big file, you can edit this view to be staged. You can edit this view to be viewed by hunk. So let's say you have some lines here that is not being edited. It will auto omit it. It won't show you. And it will let you focus on which part of the code that is being changed instead of the tedious part. But if you are the traditional person, you can of course view inline, which means that I can view the whole file and then I can see the parts that are being changed. Or if you have a really wide screen, then I'm jealous of you, and you can look this side by side and can see that, okay, this line is being changed like this, and this line is being changed like this, and so on. So anything, as long as you like it, you can change to that particular view. But for my usual case, I usually will use by hunk. Okay, so let's commit a change. Okay. Sorry, before I commit a change, let me just make a branch. Yeah, because I want to try to see if I can crash the master branch so I can demo later on. So let's try making a branch. Yeah, sorry if I'm all over the place. Yeah, I'm very nervous. Okay, so let's create a branch, right? So it's very simple to create a branch in GitKraken also. You just select the commit you want to create your branch from, right click, and then create branch here. Okay, so what branch do you want to be? Let's say CUM. Yeah, because I'm not creative and I just find anything that I want, anything that I see. So GDSC UTeM, you can see that over here, it does not have this little icon here, right? It does not have this little avatar icon here. It only has this computer icon here. This means that it's only in the local. It's not at remote. Okay, so in usual cases, when you create a branch, you will usually right click and then you will push it, or you can just click this button here to push. So since in the remote, which means at GitHub, it does not have this branch at all, it will ask you which branch should it push and pull from. In most cases, you will use back the name and then you just submit. And then it's now pushed. So you can see push successfully to origin. You can see that now it has this little icon here. Okay, so back to what we were doing. Let's do a stage file. Okay, and then over here, blah, 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 and then let's do a summary. So the commit message summary. So what is the summary? The summary will be probably add bio. And then maybe sometimes it will be add bio GDSC UTeM, because I added GDSC UTeM's bio, which is here, right? And description, you can add anything. Sometimes I like to include jokes, but yeah, it's basically anything. But if let's say you're working on a large project description, usually you will include like why you did this commit, what this commit corresponds to, what is the detail of this, and so on. But since this is a demo project, let's just commit the changes. You can see that now over here, GDSC UTeM at remote is at this current commit here. You can see this little icon is over here. As you can see, the icon is over here, and then the local icon is over here, right? Which means that I'm here and the remote is at here. Okay, so what do? I push. Okay. Now I push and I can see that, okay, now I have GDSC UTeM here, I have master here. Okay. Now, in group projects, right, usually you will do a pull request. So a pull request will be saying that I request for you to pull my changes in. So this is a pull request. I request you to pull my changes in, right? So pull request. Okay. Initially, I also don't understand why is it called a pull request, but when I think of it this way, it makes sense. Okay. So now, let's look at remote. Okay. So remote, which is in our case GitHub. So over here we can see that, okay, we have GDSC UTeM branch here, and then we can start a pull request. Yeah, start a pull request to origin from this GDSC UTeM branch. Okay, so GitKraken provides a really, really good interface for us to actually settle everything here. Okay, so from this repo to this branch to our master branch. So because our commit only has because this branch only has one additional commit, it will usually take back the title here. And of course, being the nice group member I have, being the nice group member I am, I will say that, okay, added bio for GDSC UTeM. And then if, let's say, I like to joke with my group leader, I say, please add this in. Okay, probably like that. And then if, let's say, you are doing in larger projects, you have reviewers, you have assignees, you can say, I assign, okay, this person to settle this job. And then I can add a label. So this one usually will be used in larger projects. So the label will be a bug, documentation, and so on. So people will know where to triage the issue to. Okay. And then, of course, you can create a pull request. Okay. Now, after you create a pull request in GitHub, hopefully you will see this. Okay, you can see that the pull request is being done here. So just now I demoed using doing a pull request using GitKraken. But what if your team member does not have GitKraken, or your team member is just lazy to open up GitKraken? GitHub has its own new pull request icon. So you can click here, new pull request, and then you can do a compare changes. You want to do you want to compare and merge where across where. So you can see that this is the source, this is the destination. So you want to merge from here to here. So in our case, let's redo a pull request again and see, okay, this thing is the changes, this is the commits, and then you can, of course, create another pull request. There's no problem. Second pull request, cause why not? Okay, and then you can create a pull request, or you can create a draft pull request. So maybe sometimes you haven't finished writing, but you want to leave. But yeah, so you can create a draft pull request first. So no problem, create a pull request. Oops. Oh no, I accidentally pushed back pull to this. Oh no. Anyways, I did this accidentally. Okay, anyways, let's go back to the pull request here. So we have an add bio pull request here. And then you, as a really nice group leader, right, you can see everything here. And you can decide whether to merge the pull request or not, right? And you can see whether to merge pull request, to squash and merge. So squash meaning that if there are multiple commits, you just make it into one commit, and then you add to the base branch. Okay. And then if, let's say, rebase, right, is basically taking all the branches and then put it as if it's from the destination branch. So in most cases, for beginners, or for beginners, or for most use cases, it will be just a normal merge. So over here, you can merge your pull request. Okay, so which means that you will merge the code from this particular branch to that to your destination branch. Okay, So of course you can add a little message. Usually people will say LGTM, which means looks good to me, without probably looking at the code, but so confirm merge. Okay, so you can see that now it has the merge status, and then pull request is successfully merged and closed. Okay, now let's go back to GitKraken here. And then let's refresh. So I fetch origin, which means that I pull the changes down from origin, which is GitHub. I fetch and see that if there's any changes, yep, there is a change. Okay. Wait, let me look back. Okay, now you can see that master is here, and then GDSC UTeM is over here. So let's sorry, let me try if I can crash this. Okay. Oh, check out master branch. Hopefully I can crash this. Oh, nope, I didn't. Now I'm simulating something called a conflict. Let me see. Yeah, forgive me if I'm taking too much of time. Yeah, so again, if you guys have any questions, to ask in the Q&A while I try to resolve this thing. I'm so sorry. Okay, let me do some changes again. Okay, now let me try this. I'm so sorry. This shouldn't happen. Okay, while I'm doing it, I introduced a little new function called stash and pop. So what is stash and pop? So if let's say you are working on one particular branch, so for example, I'm working on a local master branch here, and then I want to suddenly work on GDSC UTeM branch. So if I suddenly change to GDSC UTeM branch, which is here, then probably the whole thing will get disappear, right? Or I don't know what is happening. Sorry, really sorry. Okay, now the work in progress is here, right? So if let's say I change a branch, okay, now I will see that a conflict prevent checkout, commit, stash, or discard your changes first. Why? Because that this particular line here, line 37 here, is different from what is happening in this master branch. So sometimes this will happen. So what you would do is that you can stash it, which means that you put it as a work in progress. Then you can check out at the other branch here, and then you probably can pop it out. Okay, so here's the thing: you pop it out, and then your changes is back. So the nice thing about GitKraken is that, of course, it's a Git function, but GitKraken makes it really, really nice to visualize is that you can have multiple stashes and multiple pops throughout your whole repository. Okay, so a stash is basically saying that, okay, I don't want to commit yet, but I want to save my changes. So it's a stash. And then pop, it will be like, I will want to apply my stash changes on the current code here. Okay. Now, I'm so sorry. Let me try this again. Let me push this. And then start a pull request again. Let me retry this again. If if this does not happen, I'm not really sure again. I'm not really sure already. I'm so sorry. Okay, let me try this way. So, by the way, did you guys know that you can actually change code in GitHub itself, right? So, like, let's say I want to change this, let's say index.html here. I can just edit this file over here. But of course, it's not recommended because, you know, GitHub itself does not have its own version, does not have the auto formatting. So, well, a lot of people don't really like to use this lah. But anyways, let me just change this. Let's see if it works. Usually, it's of course not recommend to straight away use this update index.html, but let's create a new branch and start a pull request. And then I create a pull request. So before I recreate a pull request, let me just okay. Now let's redo what is being done. Okay, merge pull request, as we see here. And then fetch it again. And then drag this onto master here. Right. And then I pull. Oh my god, Git. Sorry, GitKraken is a little too smart for this. Sorry, I'm okay, but anyways, just to not waste you guys' time. So in usual cases, if let's say you want to merge your changes, right? Sometimes you will see that there will be a conflict. Okay, they will have something like this called a merge fail or pull fail. Why? Is because that well, you have a conflict. So what is being shown in a GitHub itself is different from what you have locally. Okay, so of course this is very bad. And then how to merge, how to resolve your merge conflict. So GitKraken is really nice in showing this interface here. So this interface here, you can click over here and say that, okay, which part you want to merge. So like, let's say you want to take the changes from here, you just tick here, and then it's not shown here, but over down here, there will be something called a result pane. So it will show that, okay, what will happen to your code if you click, if you select this, it will show down here. What will happen if you select both of this and so on. So at the end, you can save it. You just click here and then you just save it. And well, your merge config will be done. So you can commit and merge, and then it will be done. So once it's done, you can push successfully to master and origin and maybe pull it nicely. Yeah, so I really apologize for this mashup. I will look back on what is being wrong here. Okay, now let's look back at our agenda here. Okay, so we created or fork a repository with a Git hosting tool like GitHub, like we did just now. We did a git ignore also. We also copied or cloned a repository that we did just now. Okay, and then we added a file to a local repo, and then we did save the changes, right? So you can add a file and say add file, and this will be a file. And in GitKraken, you can now see there's an add file here, right? This plus means it's a new file. This little pencil icon means something is edited. Okay. Now you add a file, local commit, save the changes, push the changes, and then make a change with a Git hosting tool and then commit. Yep, we did all that. We did pull the changes to a local machine, which we did also. Yeah. We create a branch, make a change, commit the change. We open a pull request and we merge our branch to the master branch. And unfortunately, I'm so sorry, we did not resolve Git conflicts. I showed you the slides just now. If let's say one day you face that, but yeah, okay. Now, of course, again, I think this is, I would say, the end of the demo session and the Q&A. If let's say you guys have anything, please do submit your question at the Q&A tab of Slido. And yeah, so before I end this session and everything, I will tell you guys about what are the best practices or what not to do. Okay, so the best practice. So for team leads, it's recommended for you to lay out the boilerplate code for team members to let them base their work off on. So as you can see just now, the way that Git tracks changes is that it will look at every single line, correct? So if let's say you're a team leader, usually for me, I will say that, okay, I put out the functions and then I will leave a few empty lines there for people to add their code in. But this only applies unless if everyone uses a different file. Okay, if everyone uses a different file, then there's no point of doing it, right? And then the next thing I will really emphasize is that please do format your code before committing. Okay, the reason why is that if let's say other people are using their own formatter and then they have the habit of formatting, so every time when they do any changes, right, they'll also auto format your part of the code, which makes the whole Git tree not accurate anymore. Okay, and then please do pick your stage code and commit every now and then. So what is picking? It means that just now I said that GitKraken, you can select which line you want to commit, right? So this is code picking, okay? And then you commit every now and then. And then your committed code should be directly workable. So when people want to roll back, it will have a directly workable thing and does not have something like, oh, this one I think I patched in that one lah. And then, why my code doesn't compile, right? So it actually defeats the purpose of having a version control already. And use commit messages that make sense and keep your local repository up to date. So what do I mean by using commit messages that make sense? So don't write commit messages like fix bug, right? Don't just write fix bug. You need to write fix what bug, right? And then if you are fixing in relation to a pull request and say, and you can issue, you can refer to the issue number also. Okay, and then don't commit binaries that are large and post to frequently change. This one I will emphasize it again. Do not commit binaries because Git is not designed for binaries, and especially don't commit the DLL files. So last time during one of my first few projects, right, I do have a few friends that committed the MySQL connectors in GitHub, which please don't do that. So your whole repository is a gigabyte in size. It should not happen. Okay, And do not commit generated files, something like .exe, .log, dot probably, and so on. As long as it is generated, in common cases, you won't commit it unless it's something like a pip file, a pip log, package.log, package log, sorry, if you are using Node.js. And then in general, do not alter history unless you have a really, really good reason to do so. So like what I said, alter history is that do not really do things like rebasing. So when rebasing, you are actually taking the changes from one branch and then you reapply to another branch. But the thing is, you will be using the time frame, you will be using the time of your local computer. Yeah, so in general, do not alter history like this, or do not something like step back the whole master branch and then let the master branch a new branch and so on. Do not do that. It's really, really bad practice. And then don't in general force pushing. So just now you can see that when I want to push something, like let's say I don't want to do that anymore. If let's say your local branch and your remote branch is different, right? You can force push it, but you will be wiping what the remote branch has. Okay, so let me try. If let's say I reset master to this commit, I can see that local is this and then remote is this. And then if I force push this, it will warn me, okay? It's behind origin master update branch. Okay, I don't want to listen to them. I just force push. So it's a destructive action. Of course, I force push. So you can take a look at the commits here, 1, 2, 3 here, this 3 here, and then see what happens when I force push. Okay. So when I force push, you can see that the thing disappears. Okay, so don't do that. If you do that, your team member will probably maybe kill you because you will be wiping out history and progress. So in general, do not do that. Okay, and do not commit secrets. Okay, unless it's just an assignment and you will be changing, like you will not be hosting this in a production level. So secrets are basically something like passwords or keys. Do not commit that. Okay, don't ever commit that. If let's say you accidentally commit this secret in a production environment, change your secrets immediately. Okay, and most importantly, when using Git, do not panic like me just now. Yeah, I don't know what happened. Yeah, I will look back. Yeah, do not panic when you use Git. Do not ever panic. Okay, now here's a really good I would say good flow. It's called a Git flow, and then it separates your whole development into 3 types of branches: stable branches, volatile branches. Two types. Stable branches and volatile branches. So usually we'll have master, develop, and then a topic. So master will be, of course, our main branch, which means everything in production will eventually end up here. Develop means development branch, and then everything in develop will probably at the end merge into master. This topic will be something like, okay, I want to add a search bar. So this topic is called search bar topic. And then after it's done, it will merge develop branch for testing, or maybe at this topic it already test. And then when it's done testing, merge develop and so on. So Git flow is usually suitable for larger teams and larger projects. So if let's say you are doing your FYP, I'm pretty sure you won't use this particular thing, but this thing is here, like when you go out to work and so on, it'll be useful. Okay. Now for team leaders, like I said just now, do boilerplate code or code frames for your team members, and please protect your main or master branch so that your team members won't accidentally force push to the master branch. So how do you do that? Okay. Now let's go back to GitHub here, and over here you can see settings, right? So go to settings, and then over here you can see there's something called is it this? Nope. Security and wait, sorry. Branches. Sorry, I'm so sorry. And then you can see that, okay, branch protection rules that define branch protection rules to disable force pushing, prevent it from being deleted, and blah blah blah. Okay, so you can add rule and say that, okay, the branch name pattern. So this will be I would say a regex pattern, but since we only have one, so let's call it master. Okay, now I will say in usual cases, I won't allow false pushes, I won't allow deletions, right? So I create this particular branch here. Okay, so this pattern now applies to one branch. So let's try false pushing again, shall we? Now let's roll back this thing to this here. So let's reset master to this commit, discard all changes, and then let's try pushing it again. So let's push, and then it's behind. Let's update our branch by doing a pull. Let's no, I don't want. I want a force push. So force push. So you can see that, okay? You can see that if push failed and then it's on a protected branch, so it declined. So it declined my force push. So team leads, please do this to prevent your master branch from being accidentally force pushed by you or your team members, okay? So that's that. And then, yeah, do not directly commit on main or master branch unless necessary. So team leads, as usual, as your team members, make a new branch when you want to do a new feature and so on, okay? Do not directly commit on your master or main branch unless really necessary. Okay, and the next thing is very interesting also for team leaders. Use Discord or webhooks to receive notifications about changes. So for demo, let me launch my Discord, and then let's look at the webhook, okay? Now in GitHub here, you will see there's something called a webhook. See, in the settings here, you can see there's a webhook here. And then webhook, it allows external services to be notified when some event happens. So let's add a webhook. Okay, so now what do you do here? In your Discord, yeah, my Discord is still launching. So in your Discord webhook settings, you can have a payload URL. You can get a payload URL, and then you can have a content type. Usually we will set JSON, and then the secret is usually in our payload URL. You can say that, okay, just send me if there's any push event, there's any individual events here. And then for me, I just put send me everything because, you know, why not? Okay, now, so once you have this little payload URL here, let me try, okay. Okay, now something like this one. Okay, I have this project called OpenCovid.my, which is here. So I can edit a channel, I can do integrations, I can do webhooks, and then I can create a new webhook. Okay, so I copy this webhook URL, and I look at my target channel. Where do I want to target this channel? And then I copy the webhook URL, and then I paste it in. So the thing about when pasting it in, right? Remember to add a slash and then GitHub. Okay. Remember to add this /GitHub, and then you can just add the webhook, which is here. Okay, so this will be pushed to OpenCovid.my. Okay, so let's see. Let's edit something. And then let's try pushing it. Okay, so let's commit. Okay, test commit. Page all changes as usual, and then I commit changes to a file. So when you commit, nothing will still happen because it does not push to GitHub yet. But now when you push, okay, there you go. So you can see that learn Git with Git, GitKraken, GitHub, there's one new commit, and that's this particular commit here, right? So for team leads, it's very useful for you to have this to, you know, like track if, let's say, that there is new stuff that can let you review lah. So it's really useful lah. Okay, now for team members, please do always check from latest version of code, and then you make changes based on it, unless your team lead says otherwise. Okay, and then if possible, do merge the latest changes of your code to your branch before submitting your pull request to reduce if there's any risk of conflict. Okay, so remember to merge back the code and then only submit your pull request So like if there's any conflict, then it will be minimal. Okay. And then remember, one branch is only for one feature. So if let's say you keep on thinking that my group lead so slow, I will do everything in one branch. Don't do that, okay? It will be very difficult for auditing and checking purposes, okay? Okay, now next, always format your code before committing, or else you will risk your contribution being taken. So how is this being so? Next slide, I think. Yeah, not yet. So later I will talk about git blame. It will address that. Okay, so at the end, if you screw up and you don't know what's the problem, you delete your local copy, you git clone a new copy, and that's it. So this is the one of the really nice stuff about Git, is that everything you just download down. If it screws up, delete, download again. Okay. Now, GitHub as portfolio or finding a job with your GitHub profile, I believe that our beloved committee here has already found a speaker for this. So the speaker next week will address this in detail. Okay. So in short, your GitHub profile allows you to pin projects that you are most proud of, which is here, and then you can have some activity analysis on what is being done throughout the whole year, and then you can do a front page. Okay, I believe the speaker next week will address this in detail, so I won't talk much about it. Okay, now one of the best parts, okay, of making sure your team member contributes, because I know everyone like me really hate sleeping members. Am I right? Okay, so one thing is GitHub Insights. So there's this contributors tab. I will just click here. So from this contributors tab, okay, so let me just choose a repository, one of my repository. Okay, so over here will be, you can fill in your username and repo, and then you can go to graphs contributors. Okay, for example, okay, I would choose a more. Okay, this is not my project, but I think it gives really good insights. So GitHub has this really useful thing that it will auto look and see who has the most contributions based on, you can see based on commits or based on some other things here. You can see that, okay, now from this particular date to this particular date, you can see that, okay, there are so many contributions, and of course you can highlight to let the whole thing focus in, and can see that, okay, this guy has this many commits in this particular time frame, how many lines added, how many lines deleted, right? You can see there's different people here and so on. So you as a group leader, you can of course use this and catch those sleeping team members, and I don't know, maybe report to your lecturers. I don't know, it's just a suggestion. But yeah, from here, you can have a really nice view, and of course a very nice evidence if, let's say, you want to report them. Okay. Now, network graph. Again, let's go back and look at this network graph, which is here. So this network graph is basically a timeline to the recent commits, and then it will order, like, it's basically will look something like a GitKraken, but you can see that, okay, you see there are so many changes here, and the date is here, so you can see that who did what commit when, and then which branch is from where, and who did what branch, and so forth. So it's a really nice feature, I would say, and also probably will be evidence for you reporting on your sleeping group member. But okay, now contributors tab is here, network graph is here, and then git blame. Yeah, so git blame basically is you now know who to blame if your code screws up. So in GitKraken, there is something called a git blame. I will of course use a better project, which is here. The report is quite big. Okay, for example, I select, let's say, this branch, this particular commit, and then I see this SCSS file over here. Okay, so this is the changes, and then I can say blame. So blame is basically saying who wrote what code, when, and probably why. Okay, so you can see that there's a really nice thing over here that says, okay, like probably this guy did this fix over here. Okay, when he's doing fix missing border. Okay, which is here. And you can see that, okay, this line screws up. Okay, who and when did he do that? So this is this time. And then probably you want to jump back to history and you can click here and say that, okay, during this time, who did what when? And what is the thing that made this whole thing work or does not work? Okay, so it's a really nice and comprehensive thing when you want to blame someone. So the reason that I said just now, why format your code before committing is also because of this. If let's say you don't format your code and then other people accidentally format your code, so this whole chunk probably, let's say, this whole chunk that kena auto formatted will probably give a different message than what it's supposed to be. And of course, increasing the debugging time. So please remember to format your code before committing, okay, in general. Okay, now again, Q&A is here. So if anyone's interested in the Q&A, I think committee will send many times again. Okay, now some takeaway points. I know it's a really long day, so I do apologize for the mishap just now. But yeah, some takeaway points. So about Git, it solves many software development problems by providing a distributed version control service, and it has multiple acronyms for it. And it's version control software is Git, code hosting website is GitHub, and then the Git GUI is GitKraken. Okay, terminology, repository is the place where you store code. Remote is a repository that is not on your computer. A branch is a movable reference to a series of commits, like you can see from here. This one, you can see that the label here just now keeps on moving, right? So this is actually a label that all these labels are actually branch labels that keeps on moving, and so on. So if you want something that is not moving, you can create a tag. Click here, click on the commit, right click, and then you can create a tag. So I can do something like that, test tag, and then it's here, but it's a local only. So if you want to push it to origin, of course, always right click, push test tag to origin. And now you can see that it's in origin. And my Discord has this notification again. Okay. Okay, and then the commit is a snapshot of your code at a particular point of time. A fork is when you copy other people's repository. Git ignore is a file to tell Git what to not track. A pull request is when you request others to pull your changes, because I request others to pull, so pull request. And stash is a place to temporarily store your code without committing it. Okay, so Git file workflow to track files, stage it, and then you commit the file to take a snapshot, and then you stage your changes to prepare for it to be committed, which means over here you stage your changes, and then you remove your file, then it does not get tracked anymore. Okay, and then references and extras, then perks as students, of course. First is if let's say you are using the CLI, so GitHub actually released something called a GitHub CLI, which is on the command line of GitHub. You can do pull requests, you can do issue tracking, and so and so forth from GitHub, this CLI. And one of the best things I think is that it auto manages your SSH keys. So if let's say you log in using this GitHub CLI, you can directly pull from your own private branch without having to deal with SSH keys and so on. It will auto help you settle everything. So this is the reason I use GitHub CLI. And then free stuff just because you are a student. So remember, you are a student, you use your student email, you can request for GitHub Student Developer Pack. You can look at this URL here. And then we have Azure DevTools for teaching, but I'm not sure if UM students have it. I'm sure UTeM students have it, but UM I'm not sure, but it's worth a look. You can look at this Azure DevTools for teaching. They have a lot of free paid software, so please do look at it. And then yeah, further resources. If you want to know more about Git, you can take a look at this Pro Git book. It's a 500+ page book that describes Git from every nook and cranny, and really every single thing, like how Git works internally, how the whole thing links, and then from here you can understand why there are some best practices that I say are best practices. Okay. And then further resources, you can learn Git branching, which is this thing, something like that. If you are familiar with the Git CLI, you can do this. So, it's an interactive model that tells you what is being branched when and where. And then we also have Learn Git by Atlassian. I don't know if it's pronounced this way. Atlassian is the company for Bitbucket, which is another Git hosting service, and also Jira, Confluence, if you are familiar with that. And many of the nice pictures used in this presentation are from here. Okay. And yeah, I think that's about it. Thank you all guys for bearing with me so long, and I really do apologize for the thing that I did not do just now. I will look back and see what is the problem here. So if I'm right, I pass the thing to committee now, and then we will have a picture and then closing, and then we will address the Q&A session later on. Committee, are you there? Or sleep already?
We're here.
Hey, thank you so much for having me.
All right. Thank you so much, Kwong Tun Nan, for that very descriptive, very descriptive information on Git, GitKraken, GitHub. I know you messed up sometimes, but sometimes GitKraken is too smart to.
Yeah, it auto helped me handle everything, so I'm like, it did not happen this time.
So no worries. I don't know why my camera is not working. It's just the picture.
Your camera too smart also.
Yep, it's too good at detecting me. Anyways, so I'll be sharing my screen now. I'll be showing the Padlet. So, hang on, yeah. But first off, after the huge presentation by Kwong Tun Nan, I would like to ask the viewers, the remaining viewers, 63 viewers, thank you so much for staying with us until the end. So I want you guys to please scan the QR code on the screen right now. I hope you guys can see the screen right now, and fill out a feedback form on this GitHub, our first Tech Talk of the year. Amazing hype, and it's been a very informative and very interesting thing to have you, Kwong Tun Nan. So you guys can also follow our social media on this current on the screen right now, which is on Instagram, GDSC UTeM, Facebook, LinkedIn. We also have a Twitter, if I'm not mistaken, and also a Discord server for the members. And you can also subscribe to our YouTube channel to see the recording of this event on YouTube. You can scan QR code on the screen right now to have a look of our YouTube channel. We have also past Tech Talks on the YouTube channel as well. All right, so that's it for our formal part. Now let's go to the Padlet. So you guys, I've requested early on to share you guys' LinkedIn, GitHub, and whatever. Introduce yourself very briefly. So I see a few people from USM. So hello from USM. As you all may know, this is GDSC UTeM, but I'm quite surprised to see that there are people from USM as well. And also there's one from UTeM, who is also in the game tech department. Very nice to meet you guys. And also UMP as well. Very interesting. I'm very surprised that there are people outside of UM that joined this. So with that out of the way, I think that we are going to share the Slido Q&A to have a Q&A session, a brief Q&A session with Kwong Tun Nan. If someone could share the screen. But while we're waiting for that to happen, we have 60 attendees, so that's quite amazing considering that we are at almost 2 hours on this workshop, on this talk. I'm quite surprised, and thank you so much to those who stayed here until the end. 60 attendees, 59. Now we're we're reducing, but that makes sense because we're almost ending. But if those of you who want to ask questions and have a personal talk with Kwong Tun Nan. You guys can ask in the Slido link that has been spamming in the chat box Q&A session. Q&A section. And if I can check right here, it should be published here. Yep, the feedback form is also in the live Q&A. I'll just open the Slido because I don't think. All right. So we have the Slido right here. All right, 57 attendees. It's okay. So those who actually want to ask more questions, more in-depth questions with Kwong Tun Nan, you guys can stay and look at the Q&A section. Okay. So Kwong Tun Nan, are you still there, Kwong?
Yeah.
All right. I'm very sorry I can't open my camera. I don't know why it's not working. Yep. All right. So I have the questions, or do you want to present?
I'm okay with any. Wait. Yeah, probably I can present it.
All right.
Okay. Would you recommend push and commit from IDE, or is it better to do that using GitKraken? So if let's say you have inbuilt support from IDE, then definitely use the IDE one. GitKraken is usually used for something like if let's say you are using a VS Code or something that you need more advanced functionality. So like many IDE, as from what I know, like Visual Studio, JetBrains, those already have a really nice timeline. So if let's say you already have inbuilt functionality from IDE, use that. Just use that because it will auto manage some other stuff also, if I remember correctly. So GitKraken is usually used for normal, I would say non-IDE code. Yeah, if I put it that way. So I hope that answered your question. So let me just tick this. Okay. Okay. Isn't Git and GitKraken the same type of app? I mean, a type of CLI used to manipulate GitHub. Under the hood, it is kind of the same. GitKraken ships its own version of Git, but it's compatible from start to end with the Git CLI. Okay. Let me just put that on top first. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So the way that Git works, okay, I'll just talk a little bit about how Git works internally. So Git is basically a content addressable file system. So there's a bunch of pointers if you're familiar with C and C++. So there is a folder called branches, if I remember correctly, that states all of the branches that exist in this repository. So let's say a main or something like feature 1, feature 2 branch. So when they look at this particular main file, this main file actually points to some other file within the .git folder. So that from that .git folder, you can from the file that it points, that file will have other pointers to point to particular versions of those files. So these are probably multiple linking here and linking there. So for more details, there is a session I did previously on Git also. It's at the extended section. So if you're interested, you can go take a look at it. That one I did explain quite detailed. So, but to conclude on your question, yeah, GitKraken is to manipulate Git itself, and then no, it's not used to manipulate GitHub. So from what I said just now, Git is the command line tool, and probably I would say the technology also. GitKraken is the GUI application, and GitHub is the place where you host your code. So if you remember that, I think it will be clear for you lah. Okay, now since you mentioned greatness of Linux, okay, this one I will put it behind for a while because it's not related. when I fork a repo, make changes and push it, is it pushed into the repository or fork from, or it pushed into my repo? Like when you fork a repo, you will use that particular forked URL. So in my case, like I did just now, is github.com/kwongtn/ some demo thing, right? So when I use that to copy, I copy it to my I clone using that URL, and then when I push, right, I push back to that URL. So that URL is my repository. But if let's say when I clone using the original repository, and then I make changes and then I push, then we push to that original repository. But if you have permissions to push into that repository is another issue. Usually big projects, they will prevent public people from pushing it, especially to the main branch. Usually is you make your own fork, you do changes, and then you do a pull request to pull your changes to that branch. Okay, usually the flow is like this. Okay, so can I get the slide for GitKraken? Yeah, no problem. You can just download it. It's quite easy. It's like GitKraken slides. Yeah, just search for GitKraken slides and then it will be here. Hosting a Git workshop with GitKraken. It's here. Okay. So I did quite a lot of references from that also lah. So yeah, let me take it. Okay. Can we host our website server on GitHub handling database and completely handling the backend through GitHub? Unfortunately, no. GitHub, as far as I know, no lah. Maybe they changed something, but as far as I know, they only handle static web pages. Yeah, static web pages and maybe those web pages that link to your own backend. Yeah, but it's fairly simple nowadays to do your own backend also. Right? So yeah. Can we host the website on GitHub? Yeah, it's the same thing. How do we add a project to a newly created repo? Just do changes, I would say. So remember that when we did just now, test GDSC UTeM here is like this, right? So it's fairly simple. You just open the folder. Let me open the folder. Here. And then, just do whatever you are doing. So this is a file. And then maybe you want to do something like .php. Oops. So now we have this file, and then like that, blah blah blah. So you just do whatever you do, and so on. I know, probably something like this. Yeah. So you have your nice little file here already. Okay, and then from here you just commit this file, stitch the file, just add PHP file, and then just commit the changes and then push, and that's it. So there's not really much of a difference. So at the end, right, just remember Git as a text tracker. It tracks text. So as long as the thing is a text, then it's suitable for being tracked by Git. Just as a rule of thumb, this is the thing. Okay. So if let's say it's an existing project, just copy the whole project in. Yeah. And yeah, although I said it's bad for binaries, but if let's say it's a normal really small thing, like let's say your little pictures or little icons, something like that, yeah, no problem, just add it in. Okay. Okay, what's the difference between GitHub and GitKraken? Yeah, I just did it just now, so I just tick it. But if you just copy the code without forking, there's no problem. It's just that you will be remembered, like GitKraken will remember to link back your code to the original code there. But as long as you don't push anything, I don't think anything will happen. Okay, so let me tick this. Thank you for all the valuable info. Thank you all for having me also and for staying for so long. We still have 46 people now, so I'm really grateful. Okay, yeah, it's Linus Tech tech tips, not Linux tech tips, but okay. Yeah, since you mentioned the greatness of Linux, do you use Linux yourself personally? Yes, I use it every day. So I think it's a little out of topic, but since it's little extra session here, so in Windows, there's this thing called WSL, Windows Subsystem for Linux, where they put a virtual machine within Windows, so you can run Linux on Windows, but still accessing files in Windows. So it's a really, really weird combination here. But yeah, I use that as, I think it's part of my work also. I use that for one. And then two is I have multiple cloud servers that also use Linux because Linux is simple. When you boot it, the RAM they only use about 200 megs, so it's really resource saving. And also I have 2 Raspberry Pis that are running that. Yeah, so I use a lot of Linux. That's why I love Linux so much. And I think it's really, really very, I would say, the pinnacle of the century, I would say.
But you're using Windows 11.
Yeah, like Windows is really nice when you want to do something like work, like Microsoft Office. So I have a saying, if let's say Microsoft decides to port Microsoft Office to Linux, Adobe decides to port the whole suite of Adobe to Linux, I'm jumping.
Oh, but there's LibreOffice on Linux.
Well, okay, I think I say this, I will get bashed by people, but I will say LibreOffice really sucks compared to like Microsoft Office. You have a lot of collaboration tools. You see PowerPoint, they have really, really nice UI, and then they have they have a really nice add-in components here. You can add your own functions like Office Remote and so on. So everything is really nicely integrated. You have Office 365 integrated also. And if you use Microsoft Word, they have the really nice references function. Yeah, and so on. So there's no particular strong reason for me to jump to LibreOffice, but there is a really, really strong reason for me to stay on Microsoft Office. Although I really hate Windows 11 sometimes lah, but
But why don't you use Wine to emulate?
Well, Wine is just a emulation layer. So as you know lah, probably you will know that we have a Game Boy emulators, we have PSP emulators. So you know what's the difference in the performance, right?
Yes.
And then sometimes stuff breaks. I don't want to spend time on figuring out why things break instead of actually doing stuff. Like maybe previously when I'm in secondary school, I have that time now. But now, as you all know, as uni students, you just want something that works.
But Wine is not an emulator. That's literally the acronym.
Yeah, but at the end, a lot of things are still not fully supported lah.
Yeah.
I just want things that work. So yeah, I think I answer all questions, right? Let me just look back at the Q&A again, just to make sure I did not miss anything. We got Padlet, Slido. Okay.
We have a very loyal 47 viewers.
Yeah, I'm surprised. Thank you all, guys.
Thank you so much for watching till the end.
Okay, GitKraken slides, yeah, like I said just now, you can just Google it here, and then they have here. So if let's say next time you want to host a Git workshop, a more successful Git workshop than me, then you can do here and make sure that time it does not break lah. Looks good to me without actually looking at the code. Yeah, it's a meme. Oh, the recording, yeah. I think GDSC will be answering that.
The recording will be saved in our YouTube channel.
Yeah, the super big mouse. Okay. Yep. So when you sign up in GitHub student, it will link with GitKraken is linked with your GitHub, so you will get the pro version of GitKraken. So maybe many of you guys will like ask me like why do GitKraken give this for free? So imagine that you are using Git every day, and then you realize there's this thing called GitKraken, and then you get it for free during your student time, or maybe you never used Git before, but you started with GitKraken, and then later when you go to your company, you'll probably ask them and say that, hey, I only know how to use GitKraken. Can you buy a license for me? And then money, right? Same thing happened with Microsoft Office. Yeah, so and Adobe. Yeah, so yeah, I think that's it.
Right.
So
If that's all from you, I'm sure that we can end the session right here for this event.
yeah,
Um,
you guys can
so
ask me anything actually. Oh yeah, sorry. Just to put this out, if anyone is still listening, so Infinite is currently hiring interns. So usually targeting interns that are ready to start work after their internship lah. So if you are those kind of person, you can reach out to me and I can refer you to my boss. So yeah, that's it from me. Thank you all guys for having me, and I think I'll pass back to our beloved MC or our beloved Mr. Streamer. Yeah. Okay. Bye.
all right, see you, Kwong Tun Nan. So that's all from Kwong from himself. So now it's back to me. If you guys want to reach out to him, there is a LinkedIn on the chat right now. So that's all for this today's event, which is our first tech talk of the year. Just hype. So there's still 47 attendees. I'm quite amazed. All right, so that is all from us. Let me just share back the slides. All right. So you guys can also subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can scan that QR code and get the recording for this event and just rewatch it whenever you want to your leisure. So that is all from us from GDSC for Tech Talk. This is our first Tech Talk. I would like to remind you guys that this is our first Tech Talk. If you guys can, if possible also, please fill out this feedback form. And that has been Google Developer Student Club for our first Tech Talk, getting started with GitHub and GitKraken. So thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys later on in our next Tech Talk. I might not be the MC, but don't miss me too much. All right, see you guys. Bye bye.